All right. Thank you everyone for attending today's Q&A with a very special content creator. I'm sure that you guys have probably seen her before. But Sabien, can you introduce yourself for us?
100%. So my name is Sabien DeMonia. I mean, that already says something, I guess. I can't really say where I'm based. I'm based in the internet since I'm traveling so much. I don't necessarily am based in any particular country, but I'm European, as you can possibly figure out from my accent.
Totally. Okay, cool. And so how long have you been in the business?
Depending on how we will establish the timeline, because if we would assume that being a fetish model is a part of the industry, then I would say forever, since the beginning of time, and being capable of being, on internet. Technically, I think I was fetish model before Instagram exists. That's how old I am. If we talk about specifically just like a content creation and more like an adult, then I would say it will be about almost 5 years.
Cool. And so since you're referencing being a fetish model as something that's kind of been a part of your life for a long time, what inspired you to take this part of yourself in your life and to share it with others?
I think I naturally always been dominant. I guess most of the people I know, my first boyfriend and everybody after him can admit that. That, emotionally and mentally crushing balls was always my thing before I even know there is a term for it.
Cool.
So I did naturally get into it since I was always in the metal music, rock music, in the scene, I would say. So first it was like a lifestyle, and then it became a job rather than other way around.
Okay, cool. And what do you have for advice for creators who have kind of the opposite scenario where they haven't really been a part of the lifestyle, but now they're creating content and they've been exposed to the world of fetish, the world of domination and role play and worship, but they're not quite sure where to start?
First and foremost, if it doesn't feel natural, you possibly shouldn't do it, because everything in fetish world is based on genuine behavior that comes naturally within you. So first, make research within yourself. What feels good to you? What feels natural? What would you be interested in doing, even if the camera wouldn't be rolling? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't feel something, your fans won't feel it either, and it will just come across fake and post and solely for money.
Yeah. And do you have any tips for creators who maybe feel like they don't know yet how to figure out what's authentic for them? Was it easy for you? I mean, obviously you're talking about these experiences with your first partners and having these interests kind of come naturally. So what if there's a creator who's kind of in the midst of growing their business, also kind of exploring what they're into? How do you know what you like?
Fetish is based on community. Mm-hmm. So the best way to explore is to connect with a community of people who already are into it and doing it because of their passion rather than as a content creators, because then they will genuinely show you the side of fetish, how it's for real. Mm-hmm. And then you can, establish your own feelings around it and figure out what feels good. Because the main concept of doing good content is feeling good about it. Yeah. So go to the parties. There's plenty of parties. There's plenty of fetish clubs. There's plenty online communities that you can join and just have a genuine conversation about, okay, well, I'm interested in this and this type of fetish. What does it require for you to be turned on by it? Would you be turned on by if I would say this or do that? Because I feel like my work, but then I'm not sure if you, as a person who actually have that fetish, feels the same way. So the best is to know who you address it for and know what they're looking in this specific fetish. So well, I would use example of like a fetish that I wasn't even aware that it exists, and it's big niche. Every single type of fabric have someone who is obsessed about it, and I'm not talking not just latex, because this is like something we all know,
Right.
But then you have leather, but you have people who are actually very, very into velour, because it's so, yeah, I was exactly the same. I didn't ever thought that velour can be such a big thing. And there was a moment when I had a guy who actually ordered custom, and that's how I found out that the velour thing is huge. They don't even necessarily want any nudity. They just want to see how I react to velour, how it does it feel for me. They want to have the sensory experience of my experience, basically, in it. Wow. So the way I actually approached it, it was first and foremost, I guess, that required very good quality, because if they're all about the sensory, then the quality is the main key to even give them the vibe. And then the second thing is to actually ask, what are you looking for? What sort of feelings it gives you? What sort of how do you like connect with it if it's just to the medium that is video, right? Because obviously if you touch it, it's different because you have multiple, variation. You can like sense it with your fingertips. Different when you only have a video. So how can you like translate it from, touching to seeing just the thing? So I kind of did entire, I would say almost interview with the guy, asking what it gives you, what's the exactly like where it comes from, what turns you on about it, and then I built my custom around it.
Wow,
and the funny part is that actually I discovered a huge niche, because I posted them and it started to sell like crazy, and I was like, oh my god! So it means that if someone has this fetish, it means that there's an entire community behind it.
So cool. I think that's one of the coolest things about the fetish community is how much the concept of arousal is or like the preconceived ideas of what gets someone aroused is completely obliterated. Be like all of these like typical things or stereotypical ways, like it takes the idea of sex or your sexuality being tied to genitals and penetration, and kind of just like of course those are still things.
Spread it around, that's what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Yes, we are in the same place. Yes, sometimes you have to spread it rather than just keep it tight.
Yeah.
It's part of the content I do, that's why I laugh.
Yeah, it's so interesting, so fun. And then, okay, moving on to a more like practical question, because of course, like you've just shared a really helpful piece of advice for how to create a custom piece of content that's actually going to tend to what your fan is looking for. So that's a huge like business tactic that I'm sure yields like the best results, makes the most of your time and their money. So talking also about different business strategies, do you have any ways that you've gone about the messaging, the DMs, when it comes to like making sales? Like, how do you go from starting a conversation or picking up on a conversation that you left off on with another fan and having that yield the result of a sale?
I mean, DMs are not necessarily like my main way of making it, but obviously it's very good to like extend the conversation to examples. And usually most of the people who are serious about their will of getting content that is custom, they will be more than happy to tip towards, exchanging the samples, I would say, or like examples of it. I usually like if someone is extremely particular, what often happens with fetish, they do understand that if they want like an example, sample, try on a little piece of content, then they will have to like obviously pay for it extra on top of standard payment for the content itself. On top of that, usually I'm not very pressuring people to tip. I'm more like trying to generally have a conversation, but I obviously like draw the line. If we're going into like fantasy roleplay already in the conversation, then I will like set up a price for it. But I usually don't really charge for the writing the text.
Mm-hmm.
It's more the actual content that I would put price tag on.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point to talk about the boundaries to set within the conversation, because I think that sometimes creators don't know that perfect balance of kind of getting the enticement.
Very fluid.
Yeah.
You have to feel the person you conversate with. Often people are just so used to that their requests are so specific that they will pay the tip on front. You don't have to really verbally ask them for it. But other people, like what I have a rule of like 3 questions. If you're going over the 3 questions, I like say like, okay, well, we can establish most of the things you want to know in those 3 questions. If you really want to go into details, what will kind of be a fantasy at this point and I kind of go borderline sexting, then I will start to put a little price tag on it. Okay. Because I'm happy to establish the details of the order or whatever, but if you are going past that, or if your questions start to be way away from the main topic, it means that you really want to just have like me occupied with a conversation with you. What means that would be nice if you can like appreciate my time that I spend on it. Another thing is also I try to like if I send a piece of content that is also video or like a picture, I usually put a description in writing what he can expect when he opened the message. So there is no shock, like if let's say it's not nudity because we don't talk about nudity, we're talking specifically, let's say about feet or something. I will say like, this is the picture. To give you a concept, that's how my feet look like. This is the size we're talking about. This is the exact color of my toes, whatever. So you know what you get when you open the picture.
Yeah, details.
Yeah.
I bet that people really appreciate that. Because I mean, it's if you're gonna be purchasing anything, if you have the comparison of any sort of shop like experience investing money into something, there's never really surprises. You know what you're getting, and that's kind of what helps someone make that step into saying, okay, yeah, I'm down to pay money.
And genuine. It's like the 2 biggest keys in having this sort of interaction with people in general. Not only customers, but in general, like you should be genuine and transparent, and that's way you avoid misunderstanding of your business, misunderstanding of your intentions or whatever. So that's like, if you don't have that within you, if it doesn't feel for you the way you want it, better not to do it, because also that like exhausts you as a creator. It leads you to burnout, and it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, burnout is something to definitely be aware of. And I mean, I've got 2 things that I want to ask you. I mean, since we're talking about burnout now, a question that I was curious about is, I mean, this is your full-time thing. So what do you do to take care of yourself so that you can avoid burnout?
Okay, so I actually faced burnout last year. I hit the moment in my life when it stopped being generally nice and enjoyable the way it was, and I couldn't like make myself even to do anything more. So what I would suggest to either go out of it or avoid it. I mean, the main suggestion is to make it genuine. Mine was genuine, and I still burn out because I forgot about the fact that why I do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the main reason to do any job is to actually have a goal aside of it that you set up for yourself. It's like, if you want to achieve awards, who you will share the joy of awards with. And also, if you hit certain goal, give yourself a time to celebrate, rather than just, oh, I achieved that, next one, and again, and like no stops, no double thinking about it. I actually had this problem with within myself that I was like so concentrating on achieving it. When I was actually achieving it, I was like, okay, well, this one is already conquered, next one. And I didn't even blink. I didn't even sit down and be like, fuck, I did it. Awesome. I just keep going, you know? And I started to speed up so much that I didn't look around me and I didn't really sit down and be like, well, you did it. How about now? From all that money and all that time you spend on it, you will spend that time on something what is not connected with your work. What is just like, you know, I don't know, trip, have a 1, 2, 3 days trip somewhere. I love food and I love travels, and usually I do travel because of work. So last year I come up with the concept of actually having like those 2, 3 days away from internet, away from online life, putting my phone down, having my candles, having a long bath, and reading one book. And just that's it, nothing. Like going back to the slow life, disconnected from internet, to just even grasp my own thoughts and be with myself for a second, because I think this is the best way to charge your mental battery, is to, because also burnout means that you run out of like ideas, concepts, what you want to do next, what's the idea behind, like you lose it's not grounded anymore. The only thing what keeps you going is basically the monetary part of it, like but it gives you that much. If you like don't even go and spend this money sometimes on yourself to make yourself happy, what's the point of doing it, right? So I start to like sit down and like not only manifest what I want to achieve, but on top of that manifest what I want to do after achieving it. What's the goal that is behind it, that is deeper meaning for me?
Yeah, especially, because I feel like what you're saying is there's a lot of like statistics or money or engagement numbers of fans, whatever kind of goals that we have in our heads. But yeah, this idea of, but why is that important? What will that mean to me? And also too, when you think about just the world of technology, and especially when you have a career like yourself, where you have grown so much and you're seeing like these big numbers all the time. It's one of those things where it sounds like it could be it could start to feel, what's the word? Like you don't realize after a while
like
how important and how much you've actually done.
Yeah, the numbers stop being meaningful. They don't mean nothing at this point. And to avoid burnout, you actually have to give them some meaning that is your personal meaning, rather than the meaning like for overall industry or whatever. You have to actually sit down and be like, okay, so I want this and this because that will lead me to that and that. And that will mean that, for example, I can go and make my wish of going to Japan for a month away from my work happening, or I can buy myself a house, or whatever is the thing that you like wish for yourself. It's like it also gives you a little bit more joy, and it lets you sit down and sing that joy, rather than just be like, okay, next paper's done, thanks, let's keep going, because you know the dates are literally rolling, the conventions are one by one. Like last year was wild with the conferences, and you don't even have a time to repack your bags. I'm talking from my experience.
Yeah, it's a wild life once you get into it, and it is something that I think that it can be really hard to disconnect from, because I know that a lot of creators have this fear of becoming irrelevant, like the fear that if you take time for yourself, then people are going to forget.
To fall off from the rooster, to get to the, like, you know, every single next nominations they announce, you're like, oh my god, I hope I didn't lose the, like, you know, the level I already achieved for myself and stuff like that. Yeah, it's always in the back of your head, and it will always there. But eventually, when you are on the other side, you stop getting just pure joy of or what you already achieve, and you start to be like, I want more, I want more, I want more, a little bit more, one day extra, or one more trip, another conference. I mean, I don't have to be there, but I will go there. It's like it became like this rat race, and at this point you're like, but why? Like, you are tired, you didn't even have the time to pack, you do it everything half-ass, your content is going down because you have no time to be even online because you're in person, or the other way around, you can go in person because you have to push online. And it's like, you have to start to be selective, you have to establish what is more important and what's less important, what would you be okay with missing. And then if you are not okay with missing some specific thing, why and where it leads you? What's the deeper meaning of it for you, for your career? And be honest about it, not try to, like, gaslight yourself about it too.
Yeah, seriously. So then a question that we had talked about, something that I thought would be interesting for you to share, and if you feel comfortable, because you're sharing about, getting to the root of why you're doing this work. And if you had this moment too, where you kind of felt that the job wasn't giving you anything anymore, what do you think is the most rewarding part of it? And what makes you want to continue doing it? Like, what's your reason?
I guess you would have to ask my therapist. No, I'm joking. I'm sure they still don't know. It's difficult, it's complex. I think in me, it's like the way I saw that I can be successful in one field, regardless of my look, what usually in most of the real businesses would be already assumed to be discrediting my entire persona from the, like, I wouldn't be relevant because I have two big tits, like, period. This is the one of not many, if not the only industry where actually doesn't discredit you. Of course, it makes you more challenged by proving your worth from the inside as a business person, as someone who have more than just this cup size. I think every single woman who watches it can relate to that, because the second your cup size is bigger than double D, it's automatically somehow in people's mind established as, oh, she has insecurities. That's the only thing she can do is her visit, like the visual part of her to make up for what she's lacking. So when I start to do adult, I actually saw that this is not the case in our industry. In our industry, visuals are extremely important, obviously, but they are not devalue you as a business, as a brand, as like the full package. It's more like, oh wow, you not only look good, but so that kind of gives me the hit of dopamine that I always needed. And I was always like the front row student trying to do above the limits that are expected by the teacher. I think it still lives within me.
Yeah.
And the entire shebang with the awards and stuff, it kind of gives me the valuation I always needed. So every single time I'm like achieving the award or something, I feel like, oh, I'm onto something. I'm building something that people recognize as important and valuable and necessary, and I can be part of industry that actually is important. And like, I'm not doing it just for money, just to like, fill my pockets and just leave and like get what is good from this industry and then leave her in shambles. I'm actually contributing into it. That's why I always do panels, I always do like extra and stuff, because I really want other girls who are entering this industry to also know that it's not like everybody are here just to exploit you.
Yeah.
Most of us actually want to build within you, because if we're building together, it's much more better for everybody, for business side of things and mental side of things, and like community. Like I said, communities are actually pretty important in fetish as well. So being part of community is actually pretty satisfying within itself.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the strongest human desires that we have, is to feel a part of something, and to also know that we're valuable within that community, and that we're playing a role that is kind of specific to what we're good at. So it's incredible.
As a woman, I guess we have extra level of not expectations, but more like this one extra push to make as a woman, to prove that hits are not obstacles in doing business.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's kind of, it's one of those things where at first glance, when you think about that push that we feel that we have to kind of prove something, it can make you really upset. And I feel like one of the first stages is to be like, oh, like this is just ridiculous that we have to kind of go above and beyond to show what we have to offer. But then at the same time, I think that because there's this either disbelief from this like historic root of disbelief and like the power and the competency, it's like I think now women are kind of just like born with this genetic fire within them to just go after things.
Technically, the best way to conquer this extra step is not taking it emotionally. Yeah. Because literally taking things in business emotionally discredit every single woman, because everybody will assume that it's your hormones, even though both genders have the hormones. Yeah. One of the genders can technically decide that testosterone is the only hormone they actually rely on, and they have enough to not to disregard rest. Where we technically know a little better, because we have to, that there is more of them in every single body, and the only way to actually discredit that, oh yeah, well, you're a woman, is not to take it emotionally, because business is not about emotions. Business is about numbers. Business is about how you like represent yourself, and you have to be very cold in it. Otherwise, you ain't gonna succeed, and you will literally give them like fire, to fire back on you, So yeah, unfortunately, emotions are not something you should rely on when.
You were talking a little bit about the misconceptions that people have about the community of creators, and how sometimes people think that they might just be exploited, or that people are there to come and like take things and leave, and that it's not a community that's solid and rooted. Are there any other misconceptions that you know are circling, either about the world of adult content or specifically the world of fetish, that you think that you have something to say to like kind of break that?
The list.
Big question.
Misconception. Let's start with like the light ones, the funny ones. Like, for example, that domination is basically one slap in your ass and then blowed up. No, it's not. The misconception that kings are all about violence and pain. No, most of them, it's all about the mental approach. You don't necessarily have to like hit the person to dominate them. It's actually exactly the opposite. If you have enough of like overall mental power over the other person, you can like dominate them so much more without even using any actual force. They will actually wait for it, and not like having control over narrative. What's happening to them is the real domination, because it doesn't necessarily have to require any physical touch. It might be 100% based only on the mental way of approaching things, and who is the dom and who is the sub will be only established in your mind. If someone has to push himself to be specifically extremely brutal for it, it means that they don't even have the concept of the control in the first place. They're just clueless, and they watch too much 50 Shades of Grey. Period. So 50 Shades of Grey, another misconception. Thank you very much. You don't have to be super rich, and being super rich and having nice room doesn't mean that you're a good dog. Again, we're coming back to the I will slap you and then I will fuck you. This is also not domination. This is just like some basic role play for people who have zero clue what they're doing. Another misconception: please don't use ropes on people you have no possible, like through and through training and someone to actually assist you with it when you start, because many people build this. It's like with the gym, okay? The misconceptions and the bigger picture of, oh my god, gym will hurt you, or BDSM will hurt you, is built on based on the fact that people who watch 3 videos online decide they will be fitness trainer or dom because they already know how to grab the whip. They already have some ropes in the house, and yeah, they watch some, videos online. Oh, good. No, this is how you actually create this weird misconception of, I don't really need to know much to do so, because it would be nice to go to someone actually professional and experience it by yourself from the hands of someone who does that for years and have actual factual knowledge of how to do it, why you do it, and he can also tell you if you are suitable to do so, because like with the weights, ego lifting is not good, okay? Because if you can't really lift the weight, don't do it.
Yeah.
Work on your technique, then work on your PR. The same thing is in fetish. The same thing is in relationships. The same thing is with sex. If you don't know how to find asshole, don't try to force someone for anal. Period. So that's how easy it is. That's how the misconceptions are done, because someone like so many girls is like, oh my god, I hate anal. It's awful. No, you don't hate it. You just don't know how it was supposed to feel, because someone who tried to force you to do it didn't prepare you for it. Yeah. And with the kings, on top of very good preparation, it's supposed to be also an aftercare. And 99% of people completely forget about an aftercare that's supposed to always happen. Because as much as you can destroy approaching the topic without enough of information and actual skill and technique, you can destroy even more by taking someone to specific mental place with your domination and then just leaving them there. Because every sub needs aftercare. And if you're someone who claims to be good dom and you don't give your subs aftercare, you are just a sadist who try to leash on people and hurt them, not actually satisfy them with your practice. And the same thing is with the subs. If you are someone who thinks it's all about the pain and suffering and being like just constantly punished and humiliated, you are not sub. You need therapy, because it's something really bad with your possibly childhood that really hurt you, and you are trying to translate it into your sexual life, what will just cause you trauma, nothing else.
That's such a good point. And I feel like not a lot of people talk about that. There's so many things, like there's just a lot of surface level info.
Yeah, like, please don't learn yourself how to have sex from hubs, any type of hubs, okay? Because this is not the place to learn yourself anything. You can get inspired by the people who supply you with the fantasy of sex online, but then talk to your partner, maybe, before you actually decide to enforce your concept of it. And then not only talk to your partner, but also go step by step. Don't go like 3 steps ahead of yourself, because best case scenario, someone will end up in hospital or with trauma.
Yeah. So then I feel like a good place for us to end with this last question would be, what is your strategy for talking about how to establish what each submissive would like for their aftercare? Because I'm sure that the aftercare is different for everyone, or maybe you can let me know if I'm wrong, but what is that like for you?
Technically, entire process of domination and the entire play is very individual. Like there can be like that tiny differences, like one person can be okay with spitting on their face, but not spitting like in different way, or like choking them, but only in specific position, because other position open some wounds or whatever, because a lot of people who are into BDSM also have, like everybody actually have some sort of trauma somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So people are very specific, and even the technical side of like pull my hair. If you don't know how to pull the hair and someone have extensions, we have already a big problem here, right?
Yes, yeah.
This is like the basics of the basics, but yet people overlook those, and then we have miscommunication issues, right? So technically, I would say like have an honest, open conversation with a person before you even start playing, because not everybody are fit to play with each other as well. Because let's say someone can enforce more power and it make you uncomfortable, for example. As a sub, you have to communicate very clearly your don'ts, like very clearly. Don't leave it up to, oh my god, yeah, like warm up and then I will be fine with whatever. If someone on the beginning of the scene tell me, oh, I don't have don'ts, I don't start filming until I don't find out with specifics what the don'ts, because there are definitely some. I have my don'ts. I also didn't know I have them, but when I find out, it was super painful not to know about them, and it kind of scarred me for quite a while. So every single one of us have boundaries. If the sub is not really capable of putting them straight in the words, you ask them questions, and also ask them like, what's your favorite thing that comforts you? What's your favorite type of food? What do you do to feel safe? What do you do to feel happy? And that's basically the most you already know about the aftercare. Because if someone said like, oh yeah, I like to be rolled in the blanket and just lie for a second with TikTok in my hand, there you go.
Done, yeah.
Roll them in the blanket, you give them cuddle, you kiss their forehead, and you give them the phone so they can scroll the TikTok when you scrub their head and they feel safe. Easy. So you have to make them feel safe afterwards, so they can ground the play afterwards. So even though there was a, let's say, impact play, there was a pain on any level, after that they can like calm down and enjoy this moment of feeling safe next to you as a dom. Because if they don't feel safe next to you, it means that there was something wrong with the entire setup of it. You have to be very careful about people's feelings afterwards, because from that actually comes another misconception that, let's say, kink plays are extremely dangerous. Well, they are, and they are very detrimental if you don't understand the concept of the mutual satisfaction, boundaries, and aftercare. Because obviously it can take you to very vulnerable places. Usually it does. Some girls literally cry when they come because they're so shocked about it. Like, it's emotional. Sex is emotional, right? So you have to remember that those emotions, when they are let out, you have to kind of calm them down afterwards. Otherwise, you leave them in this vulnerable place, and then you are the monster who left them there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that these are the things that are required in order for the fantasy and the desire and the experience to be later associated with safety and pleasure and healing and all these things that sex and role play and fetish and kink can provide, because they can be these amazing tools and are these amazing things that we've discovered only when they're done with so much intention. Like,
my love language is actually food. Did I mention that? Yeah. So usually the bottom line, regardless of how well we know each other, if I'm producing scene with you, I will either cook for you or I will take you to a restaurant. That is good. So because there is nothing more conforming than good meal. Period. Afterwards, if you need a little extra care, like, I don't know, cuddle or something, or you need a little time by yourself, fine. But the minimum, the bottom line is I usually will feed you, so you know that it wasn't to, destroy you mentally or physically or something, that I actually care. Because, if someone put care into making your food, it means that they care about you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially if you're going to extend one of your top love languages, then it's the best way to seal the deal. And
I mean, is there anything better after good sex than meal? Come on.
yeah, amen. Either like a freshly cooked meal or like some sort of,
Or at least pizza, something like, you
yeah,
know,
some sort of like snacky food.
after having a, you know, detrimental orgasm, you know.
For real. You have to get all
I
of the
think I have
senses
some
and
scene where a roll of one dick when the other dick kind of is trying to be like, oh no, I need colors and pizza. Even I do need it, okay? And I'm more like a dome mommy type.
Amazing. Well, this has been such a great conversation, and I'm really excited that we got to dive more into your expertise on fetish and kink, because we've had some conversations about fetish before, but they haven't been as in-depth. And so I really appreciate you kind of going into,
what can I say?
yeah, the really core important
Famous input of my
things.
content, right? I like to go deep. But I will make you relax before I go there. That's the difference, you know.
Amazing. So then, okay, so if anyone wants to find you after, if they haven't seen you before and they discovered you through this interview, where can they find you? What are your socials?
I'm Sabien DeMonia everywhere.
Cool.
Like everywhere. On the house, on Twitter, on Instagram, everywhere where you will want to find me, just type Sabien DeMonia and just don't get scared or like.
Yeah,
if you don't Google, be prepared not to eat something while you're doing it. And
this is no, hopefully they got, if they watched the whole interview all the way through, they have an idea of what to expect. So
yes,
they know what
put
they're
this meal away.
Okay, cool.
I'll go on the Instagram. That's the softest side of me, I think.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking with you.
My pleasure. Also, looking forward to see the final cut of this interview myself.